Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got 4 replays in the brand new Tier 10 American Tech Tree Heavy Tank, the M5Y. Now if you did like the video as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the M5Y, we are finally at the pinnacle of the new Yo Tech Tree line. And you know what, it surprised me. I didn't think it would be that good, but I've actually really enjoyed playing this tank. Why? Because 12 degrees of gun depression is just delicious. It's fantastic. I love the fact that you've got the choice between 2 pretty good guns. They're not exceptional guns, but they're pretty good. And the mobility on this vehicle is also pretty nice as well. Adding the fact that your turret armor is really good, except for the fact that they can pen the cupola on top. And as a whole package, the tank definitely surprised me. And it was a lot of fun, and we've had some pretty good games in this vehicle as we've gone along in it, playing it, and it's generally been just a pretty nice addition to the game because it's pretty well balanced. That's staying straight away. It's pretty well balanced, and just like the Tier 9 and the Tier 8, having the ability to choose between 2 guns that are very competitive for what they are is definitely a very nice thing. So, we're going to start off with the first 2 replays being the 105mm gun, because you will have to grind another 50-odd thousand XP to be able to unlock the 120mm gun that you will get. And so, we're going to start with the 105, because naturally that's the gun you start off with on this tank. So, the M5Y, statistically, has a 40km/h top speed, a 17km/h reverse speed, 750 horsepower engine, which is 18.75 horsepower per ton ratio, which means generally you will get to that top speed pretty easily. If you were to run the traction system, you would quite happily hit 44km/h top speed on this tank. You've got a 20% internal fire chance, and yeah, it does get set on fire, so be careful of that. 32.7 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed is nice and quick for the vehicle. It helps to make this tank feel fairly mobile, which is nice. 2.21 on soft, 1.2 on medium, and 1.1 on firm is not the best ground resistances in the universe, and at times it can hold it back, which is why you might want to run off-road driving or consider it, especially if you run the traction system to get the extra top speed, just to make sure that there's nothing truly holding the tank back, so you can get to that top speed if you help it up to it. You've got 512 meters of view range, which is a very nice view range for a Tier 10, which means you can spot for yourself quite nicely, and depending on the map, you will get some very nice assistance damage when you try and spot out. So if you take aggressive spotting locations where you can use your good turret armor and your nice guns, you will also get some nice assistance damage out of that too. You got 45 degrees a second turret rotation speed, which is very, very quick, way faster than the tracks, which is lovely. It means you can get the turret and the gun snapped on target exceptionally quick. You've got a 0.42 accuracy during rotation with this 105mm gun, and a 1.28 accuracy during movement with the build that we run, which is absolutely fantastic. And it means that generally, the aim circle never blooms out. And you have a 1.84 second aim time as well, meaning that little bit that it does, it aims in really quickly anyway. So the gun handling is exceptional with this 105mm gun, and generally, all in all, I'd say probably the 105mm gun is the best gun for the tank, but the 120mm gun is still a very nice gun to be able to run on the M5Y, and it's going to come down to personal preference, whether you prefer the higher alpha or the lower alpha, but the general better gun handling. I mean, for me, again, you know me, I'm an alpha dude. I like the ability to go and have the higher alpha and just brawl with a bit more damage than have that higher DPM, but that's my personal preference, right? A lot of people will prefer the general consistency of this gun over that 120mm gun. So yeah, the accuracy during rotation and movement is fantastic, same as the aim time being 1.84, and because of that, you could actually drop the gun stabilizer with the 105mm gun to run the traction system to be able to get that 44km/h top speed, which, you know, you would hit, and without the gun stabilizer, you have a 0.53 accuracy during rotation and a 1.76 accuracy during movement, which still isn't atrocious, and as a pair is still pretty decent, so you could definitely get away without running the gun stabilizer. I just like having that filthy accuracy that this gun does have if you do run it. You've got a 0.28 accuracy at 100 meters as well, which is very, very nice for the M5Y. It means that you will hit most of the shots if you get it fully aimed, which is lovely. 12 degrees of gun depression as well. Like I say, this tank is fantastic for that 12 degrees of gun depression. You've already seen it in this replay, just how flexible it is on a ridgeline and how much it can poke over a ridgeline where other tanks really couldn't, which is very, very nice for it. Naturally as well, by the way, the M5Y does have the same thing that most of the tech tree has as well, that it has that 30% better repair speed than any other tech tree has, or any other tank in general. So you don't actually have to run track mechanic on these tanks, as you basically get it built in, which is quite nice for the M5Y. Also, the track health is a lot more as well, meaning it takes a little bit more to actually blow the tracks off on the M5Y. So you've got a 5.94 second reload with this 105mm gun, which is 3.6k DPM, which is nice. It's very, very nice indeed. It doesn't keep up with the... He was saying no! The ISM was like, no, please, I don't want to die. This game sometimes. You know, it is what it is. Where was I? Where was I? 3.6k DPM, which again is very nice. It doesn't keep up with the E5, which is near 4k, but 3.6k is a respectable amount of DPM. And realistically, again, that's a very good position for the DPM to be in when, for me personally, I think the DPM levels or the DPM creep on a lot of vehicles when it gets up to the point of being at 3.94k is probably a bit ridiculous and should be down a bit further. But more in line with what it was kind of like back in the day, but hey-ho, it is what it is. So 3.6 is respectable. It's a good amount of DPM. 268 penetration on the standard APCR is fantastic, and 315 penetration on the premium heat rounds means you won't struggle with most vehicles, which means that this tank has fantastic penetration. You've got the 360 Alpha with that 3.6k DPM, good penetration. 1,472 meters a second shell velocity on the standard APCR is fantastic. It means you don't have to give too much lead at distance to be able to hit your targets, and that is something that is way nicer than the 120mm gun as well. You've got 1,173 meters a second shell velocity on the heat rounds, which is actually still pretty decent for a heat round as well. Means you will feel a difference between the two rounds though, so be careful of that. And your HE has a 945 meters a second shell velocity too, so be careful of that too. And it has 440 alpha as well, so when you're hitting things like a Waffle Panzer 4, you're hitting it quite nicely for 456, you're increasing your DPM massively, and yeah, as you can see, the shells do loop a bit more when you fire that HE round. But yeah, all in all, this gun is very, very nice, and it is a solid choice to pick to be able to use as your main staple gun for the M5Y. Does that mean that 120mm gun is a horrible gun? No, it's still a pretty good gun. It is just generally worse than the 105, so a lot more people will probably use the 105 than the 120. But like I say, the 120 is still very, very nice, and the fact that it hits for 440 is also pretty juicy, and that is a nice factor for that gun. So you've seen this first game so far here on Erlenberg. We've managed to get 4.7k damage with 1628 assistance. We get a shot snapped into the Gorilla 15. That Gorilla 15 on the move, full RBRT, manages to get a shot straight in towards us. Thankfully, it bounces, though, as, yeah, you should never have ever been able to hit that, but there we go. And we're finishing off with the shot there, which, again, just showing the APCR shell velocity, which is really nice. It really helps you hit those shots at distance. We finished the game with the 3 kills, 5.7k damage, 2.1k assist, the ace tanker with that 1653 base XP. A very, very nice game there for the M5Y on Erlenberg with that 105mm gun. And we've got the second replay here with the 105mm gun again, and we're gonna have a time. We're really gonna have a time here on Sunset Coast. So anyway, I've talked about the statistics of this vehicle with the 105 and the general statistics of the vehicle. What do I run in terms of a crew and equipment to be able to get that? Well, very similar to the Tier 9, I do end up running Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Rapid Aim, Clutch Braking, the Advanced Loader, the Gun Stabilizer, and Optics. Optics to be able to have the 512 meters of view range so I can spot for myself really, really easily. The Gun Stabilizer to get that accuracy during rotation and movement down as low as possible so that this gun is pretty much always ready to go. And the Advanced Loader to get the best DPM I can possibly get out of this tank regardless of the gun. All 3 gun perks to make sure this gun is as fabulous as possible. And again, if you decide that you don't want to run the gun stabilizer and you want to go faster, you definitely want to run all 3 gun perks so that you can make it fantastic, and that way you don't need the gun stabilizer. And to be honest, like I say, the gun stabilizer is probably one of those things that you could quite easily drop. I might end up dropping it and trialing it for a bit, you know, but Well, that's it, you could drop it if you wanted to. But then rapid aim as well and clutch braking to make the track traverse and the turret traverse generally better on this vehicle, so that we can be a bit more nimble on our tracks, and then we can snap this gun on target really, really easily as well. But again, there's plenty of ways you can set up a vehicle. It's really down to you and how you feel comfortable with it and how you want to be able to play the tank, as there's no real true right or wrong way to set up a tank in the end of the day. So as you've seen here on this second replay, we have pushed quite aggressively down the J line here on the wonky spawns of Sunset Coast. We caught the Tyrann out, got a shot in, and now we've got this IS-7 charging in. Thankfully, he bounces off my hull armour, which can get you some good bounces. It's not something you truly want to rely on in the M5Y, but it can get you some nice bounces. He YOLOs past us because he was going for the ram. We go for the tracking shot. Because we've got two heavy tanks coming around the corner, plus another heavy tank with us at H9, which feeds us 1500 tracking assist, and we end up with 1500 damage because we also got quite a bit of damage out on him. We see the FV225 on top of the ridgeline. My next best thing to do is to try and track this guy as well, because as I've got friends, hopefully they'll be able to shoot him and feed me more tracking assist. He ends up repairing it because he sees that it's a T-54E1 and gets himself back behind the cover, which is kind of sad because I was really hoping to get a load more tracking assist on the FV225, but well, here we go. And he managed to, well, get himself back safe. But I decided, okay, I don't want to keep poking that ridge anymore because the FV225 has pulled back, and people where that TVP was over at E67 can actually shoot us as well, which means we're not truly safe there. So I want to actually get closer to this FV225 and get up towards this ridgeline on my left. We end up bouncing what I assume was the gorilla there, or the Tyrann. Might have even been the Tyrann, sorry. And we actually get a load of spotting assist, because I think we've just spotted the artillery. So we'll take that. And we've come up against this FV225 and whatever the medium tank is next to him, it's the TVP. And I'm just trying to keep them perma-tracked, because you can generally just about, if they don't run track mechanic, you can perma-track people with this gun, which is very nice indeed. And we're racking up a lot of assistance here. We're at 4k assistance with 3.2k damage, and we're, again, just trying to keep the shots flowing into this TVP 50/51, because I feel like this guy's fired his clip, so every shot into him counts, because when he's reloaded, which he does reload very, very fast, he will then just try and YOLO us with the clip. Now we've got the 268 version 5 coming after us, and I think, oh god, I'm dead. 850 alpha, 809 hit points, yeah, I'm dead. But thankfully for me, he chooses the heavy tank behind me. We re-track him, because we're just tracking demon in this game, apparently. We're constantly going for it, and we get a bit more tracking assist there and load more damage on that 268 version 5, maximising what DPM we have there to be able to keep the damage flowing. Now there's a Gorilla 15. Thankfully, he ricochets his shot. I think he hit the dead wreck in front of me. Trying to get that tracking shot once again into the Gorilla 15, but, well, sadly, it doesn't come off. Now there's an ST2 as well. So we put a shot straight through his lower plate, and you can see the consistency of this gun. It is lovely. It just keeps going. Just keep firing. Just keep firing. Just keep firing. That's what we're doing right now. We're just watching where the damage is to just keep racking it up, because it is flowing right now. So we finish off the ST2, trying to get around the corner to get into shoot the Gorilla 15, but, well, we're driving into a tank wreck that I couldn't see because of the smoke. And then we noticed that the actual CS63 is YOLO behind us and managed to get a good flanking play off, but it was a bit too late. We get the tracking shot off, which tracks and pens the CS63. We're now in a position where he could possibly kill us in one shot if he high rolls, which re-track him in place so that we've got him pinned, so when we reload, hopefully, we'll be able to finish him off, which we do. There's only one tank left on the enemy team. It is that TD in the corner, which is the Tyrann from earlier on. We're at nearly 8,000 damage with 5k assist nearly. Just hoping to get there for one more shot, maybe a third kill in this game. That would be very, very nice. But sadly, the Tyrann kills the Tyrann, and so we don't get any little bit more. This tank is really ugly, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. And we finish with the victory. The 2 kills, 7,944 damage, nearly 5,000 assistance damage. What's that, 13k combined? Really, really great game there for the M5Y with the Ace Tanker, the Confederate, the High Caliber, 2.1k base XP. And that was the best game I had with that 105mm gun. And I think both replays just demonstrated the 105mm gun perfectly, to be perfectly honest with you, because it's just a fantastic gun. So the consistency of it is fantastic. It's got good DPM, the accuracy is great, and the shell velocity is lovely on the APCR as well. And you really do have to adjust when you switch to the 120mm gun to the different shell velocity that it does have. It's not terrible shell velocity on this gun, but it is different. So now we're on to the 2 replays with the 120mm gun, which, by the way, you can tell which gun is being run on this tank by the muzzle brake at the end. It looks kind of weird, the 105mm gun, where it's got a little sort of flared out muzzle brake, whereas the 120mm gun is a bit more smooth, and you can see it in this replay realistically how it's just a bit more straight in the end. Great descriptions, I know. It is what it is. So yeah, this 120mm gun here on the M5Y has 0.6 accuracy during rotation with a 1.35 accuracy during movement, which is still fantastic. It means the aim circle doesn't bloom out much whatsoever. But you do have a 2.12 second aim time. So what it does bloom out, it takes a little bit longer to aim in than the 105mm gun will, but as you're about to see, it's pretty much aimed in anyway. You've still got that 12 degrees of gun depression with this gun. You do not lose the gun depression whatsoever in the M5Y, depending on the gun you pick, which is nice. You've got 0.3 accuracy at 100 meters, which means that this gun is still really, really accurate and will hit most of the shots you're ever going to take. Of course, RNG is still a thing, and RNG giveth and RNG taketh. It still likes to miss occasionally, but for the most part, when you aim a shot, it will hit the target. You've got a 7.73 second reload, which is 3.4k DPM, so you do have 200 DPM less on this 120mm gun. And it's the one thing that I kind of wish was a bit different on the M5Y, similarly to the M6Y. Weird that it's the M6Y at tier 9 and the M5Y at tier 10, but anyway. Naming conventions, am I right? But yeah, it's the one thing that I do wish was the same as the tier 9 in that regard, is the fact that if you were to pick, statistically, if it was to be set up properly, that the 120mm gun basically had the same DPM as the 105, and that way it's a choice between having higher alpha but worse gun stats, and lower alpha but way better gun in terms of its handling, right? That's the way I'd want it, but this gun does lose 200 DPM, which is quite significant, because 3.4k DPM at this point is not that great for a tier 10 heavy tank. So, it's still decent, but it's just not great compared to a lot of what's out there these days, right? And especially compared to the other gun that you can pick where it's got an extra 200 DPM at 3.6, but I digress. We've got 258 penetration on the standard AP on this 120mm gun, with 310 penetration on the premium heat rounds, which means you've lost 2 penetration on the standard AP, which is fine, and you've lost 5 penetration on the premium rounds. So the penetration difference is minor, realistically. But you got 440 alpha on the standard AP and the heat, and you got 530 alpha on the HE, which is very, very nice. And when you get to farm up a 4005 or an artillery or something like that, again, your DPM goes brrrr, and it is very, very nice indeed for farming up with that. You got 1,120 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP and the heat rounds, which is above average, which is nice for an AP and a heat round, and it's not terrible at all, which is good. You still have to give a lot more lead at distance to be able to hit your targets than, say, if you ran the 105, but yeah. You got 900 meters a second shell velocity on the standard HE as well, which is slower, so be careful of that. Now, you saw a terrible shot there on the 268 as we shot straight underneath, and we aimed it terribly. That one, however, went perfectly, and we managed to track the 268. We didn't actually manage to pen him that time, but we have kept him pinned, which means this guy is absolutely boned, and it's exactly what we wanted. I didn't expect him to be sat in that bush when I came round the corner, to be perfectly honest. I was like, oh my goodness me, that's a 268. What's he doing there? You know, I thought he'd be either attacking a bit more aggressively or trying to get more shots into us, but hey-ho. But we managed to actually get around him, thankfully, as he didn't actually pen us. And that's what you want to do when you get any sort of tank destroyer like that, where they're sat in the open aiming their shot in. If you get the tracking shot in, you can stop them dead and just get around them really easily. And it depends on the situation, obviously, but that was the situation where he was all alone, and it's what you want to do against a lone turretless tank destroyer. So here on Fjords, we've managed to get 3.1k damage so far with 1274 assistance damage, and we're just trying to pressure Mr. Mouse over it. And Mr. Mouse is cleaning up. He's got the 1390 gun, he's got the, I think it was the Highlander gun as well. And we've got the heat rounds in because, yeah, 258 pen will go through a mouse, but at the angle he's at, it's just going to be a bit of a struggle, whereas if we fire the heat, we'll be able to go through his cheeks if he looks at us. So with the heat loaded as well, we're going for the turret cheeks here of the Centurion AVRE. But 315 heat, well, 310 heat pen, sorry, here on the 120mm gun. 310 heat pen is just saying, yeah, I could pen the turret cheek of the Centurion AVRE, or I might not. It's one of those things where they say shoot the turret, and it just decides, yeah, no, I'm not going to pen the turret of a Centurion AVRE. Pain, still hate that tone. But anyway, digressions. Mr. Mouse is being a pain. We're getting shots through his lower plate at this moment in time, and it's taking every shot, every chance we can, while being very, very careful, because I don't really want to bleed hit points at this point, as the game's still a bit in the base. 7-4, but you never know how quickly a game can turn. So with the heat loaded, we're just going to go make sure we're getting the shots into his cheeks at point blank. There's no chance we're missing his cheeks at this range. We're just going to make sure that our DPM, which is better than the mouse, works out. So we're just keeping the shots flowing, putting him down to 265 HP, avoiding his return shot, because that means we've still got 1400 hit points. He's still trying to angle his turret out, drives round, and then we bounce, and I was like, oh no! But thankfully, the Batchat 25T finishes off the mouse. That's why moments was, it was very much, oh, goodness gracious, but thankfully, yeah, we were okay. And we finished off the Centurion AVRE to boot. We'll take that. We've managed to block 4.1k damage in this game, which is great. 4.7k damage so far with 1500 assistance. Snap the shot into the Leopard 1 on the move. And again, it's just this gun can do this because the accuracy during rotation and movement is so good, so low that that aim circle doesn't bloom out much, and means that it's basically nearly fully aimed all the time anyway, so you can hit that kind of shot quite easily. As long as you lead it correctly and RNG doesn't decide to just say, no, I'm going to take the shell and miss, you'll still be able to hit all the shots, just like the 105mm gun. You won't quite be able to take shots like that if you were to drop the gun stabilizer to run the traction system, naturally, as the aim circle will become bigger, and it's a bit more of a pain for this 120mm gun if you were to drop that gun stabilizer, because naturally you have a slightly longer aim time on this gun, which means you have to take a little bit longer to get aimed in. If you were to drop the gun stabilizer, incidentally, you've got a 0.75 accuracy during rotation and a 1.86 accuracy during movement, which is a lot worse. So if I was totally honest with you, you could, if you were to run this 120mm gun, you probably couldn't drop the gun stabilizer, so you'd have to stick with the 40km/h top speed, whereas if you were to run the 105mm gun, you're more likely that you could actually drop the gun stabilizer quite easily and run the traction system to go at 44. So that's an added benefit to running the 105, as well as you could get the tank to be a little bit faster and not suffer too badly with the gun handling. So there's only one tank left in this game. It is Mr. Leopard, and I saw he was running around the corner at C23, and I thought, you know what, actually, he's going to be running straight down the 2 line. Let's go cut him off and get the kill on this dude. But we've not actually found him at this point. I was fully expecting to have run into him by now, but maybe he's camping at the back at B1, or he's just sitting on the corner waiting in ambush, because he did see us charging up the 4 line. So we're just going to try and see if we can spot him. If we go up beyond this house, we should get spotted ourselves by him if he's in that corner at B1. But in fact, he gets spotted down in the bottom corner at J5 with the QL, which means the QL should hopefully finish him off, realistically, and yeah, he does. So we don't get anywhere near that Leopard. At that time, he was way faster than I expected him to be. He got past us way before, and we finished with the victory. 3 kills, 5.6k damage, 1500 assistance damage as well. The Ace Tanker, the Confederate, the Steel Wall, with that 1659 base XP. A really nice game there for the M5Y with the 120mm gun. I think that was indicative of the 120mm gun in general in that game, where sometimes it's a bit derpy. On the whole, though, it just keeps, again, it's another gun that is still consistent. It's a little bit worse at range, naturally, because you're slightly worse in terms of accuracy, and you've got that worse shell velocity on the standard AP, but it's still a very nice competitive gun to pick, and that's what I like about the M5Y. It's just that flexibility to decide, you know what, I can go with high DPM. I can have 3.6k DPM, 360 alpha, which is a bit unique for a heavy tank at tier 10, realistically. Low, but unique. Very good accuracy, and then the very nice shell velocity. Or, you know what? I could just be a slugger and have this 440 alpha gun and just slug the rounds out. And it's a bit more satisfying for me to have that 120mm gun full of slugging. You know, it is what it is. So we're here on this last replay of the video, and we're on this map, which is Kaunas. And on Kaunas, we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have to work for it, but we're gonna have a good time. So we see Mr. Chieftain We put a shot straight through his drive wheel, tracking and penning him. Just being careful of that M48 120mm in the distance, because he could shoot us quite easily. The Chieftain hits us on the move and pens us because we gave him our side, and we sadly ricocheted off his upper plate. I'm quite glad that that Tyrann didn't decide to shoot us. He was too distracted shooting other people, because that could have been quite bad, but hey-ho. And with this Chieftain caught out in the open, I'm just trying my best to make the most of it. We track and pen the Chieftain once again, keep him pinned in place, and the M103 shuts him down. Hopefully we get the tracking shot on the Tyrann, but it doesn't quite work out, but we do end up penning him anyway. We're up to 3.2k assistance with 1794 damage, and now we're getting shots into the M48 120mm. I didn't shoot him originally because I didn't want to wake him up. That's the way I'll describe it. I didn't want to wake him up, because what happens a lot of the time is people will be blissfully unaware you're there, and they'll be focusing on everybody else in front of them. But the moment you shoot them, they go, oh, there's a tank there, and then they start shooting you, and they can be a right pain. So I didn't want to wake him up to the danger, and that way, by farming the guys in front and then being able to turn my attention to him when the danger in front had disappeared, we're all right. So I've been popping blind shots to see if I could hit the Tyrann, because we saw destructible cover get destroyed, but wow, we didn't hit any of it. And we're up to 2.2k damage, and we've seen that the enemy team, while these guys are retreating on the ABC line, they're starting to attack out of the town towards our cap. So I want to go try and cut off the FV225 and friends. Sadly, we got there a little bit too late for the FV225, so we couldn't actually get a shot into him, but we have got the Felice and the Panzerjäger. Now, the Panzerjäger's got down the K-line, so I'm not really going to get any shots into him. The FV225 doesn't quite YOLO out like I was expecting him to, so we don't get any shots there. But maybe we can go in and pressure this Felice and shut him down, but oh... RNG says no, and we end up ricocheting off his upper plate. But since we've got his side... great scenes. Put a shot straight through the side of the fleet chain. I decide, yeah, okay, you know what? We're just going to drive out, get the shot aimed into his lower plate and finish him off and keep the pressure going, because we've now got a 259A directly in front of us. So we're going to get rid of the 259A before we decide to turn around for the FV225 and the Panzerjäger. Just aiming for that lower plate of the 259A. And again, I know that with the penetration I've got at 258, if that guy unangles his pike nose, I'll be able to pen that quite easily as well. So we're just keeping the shots flowing into this guy, always keeping an eye on what's going on behind me, so I'm not quite going to get hit in the back of the head. But thankfully, the Panzerjäger that's currently shooting my IS-7, as you can see, can't quite find the shot into me, but he could find the IS-7 because the IS-7 was a little bit higher up. So I'm going to ignore the 259A now, because he's backed up into a position that makes it awkward to be able to go after him because of the Panzerjäger. So we're going to go after the FV225, who is directly behind us. Get a shot into his side, it just goes low and does tracks only, which is a sad time. With the side of the turret of that guy, we end up putting a shot in, put him down to one shot, and the Lorraine 40T does end up shutting down that FV225. Now with the Panzerjäger, the only one left in this corner. So we're just going to go close it down, hope that we can find this Panzerjäger to be able to get rid of him. And in fact, he drives out directly in front of us. It's like, thank you, Mr. Panzerjäger. I'll quite happily take the damage, thank you. So we get one shot into him. He gets put into a one shot by the other heavy tank. But, well, we're not going to get any more shots into the Panzerjäger as he is getting away. There's no point dealing with that, because there's only one place that I can think of where the rest of the enemy team is. The 259A is still going to be in the town, which... we end up out spotting him through the bushes. Lol. Sorry, 259A, as we shut him down. There is currently 6 tanks and 1 artillery left. Panzerjäger's left alive, who is still alive somehow, charging through the 7-8 line. And then there's 5 other tanks that are going to be, probably, in their spawn at C1 or towards those ledges safe behind the rocks. So what we're going to do is just progress towards where we think they are. And I can attack that safely in the knowledge that they probably are there. Just because of the positioning of where our tanks are. They're either going to be in the town waiting in ambush or just sitting at D1, C1. So the way we want to push this is go on the outside along the one line and then try and push between each bit of solid cover, sorry, not destructible cover, solid cover, so that we can stay safe in case there is the Tyrann up at C1, which will blap us. Because at this point, we're having a very nice game, and I don't want that to go downhill. They're starting to pick up kills, though, as the medium tanks in the middle are starting to kill the one-on-ones. We see the APM-X30, so we get a shot into him on the move. Again, just the gun handling is fantastic. Gonna see if this 5100 just decides to drive out into the open, which he realizes, oh boy, we get to kill him there. That was one of the moments where you can see it, where the guy goes, oh no, he can see me, stops dead, and, well, yeah, it's a bad time. We get a slim shot there into the APM-X30 to finish him off as well for our 5th kill of this game. Again, the gun is superb, even with this gun. We're up to 6.1k damage with 3.8k assistance nearly. So, at this point, we're basically nearly 10k combined, which is a great time. We see the Murat, so we're going to get as close to this ridgeline as possible so that nothing can surprise us too easily, and get some shots into the Murat. We get a shot into him on the move for 417, and that's where the 440 Alpha is nice, because that was a low roll. 417 was a low roll, and it is quite nice for that. And we end up finishing off the Murat there for our 6th kill of the game, the Top Gun. 6.6k damage, nearly 4k assist. There's the Object 261. We snap the shot into him and go straight for the HE. Because 530 Alpha, maybe get a high roll, maybe set him on fire, we can end up killing him. But he gets himself safe. We're just looking to see if I could find a cheeky pen with the HE into the TVP 50/51. But it doesn't quite work out. We end up just splashing him instead. So you know what? Let's just be aggressive. Let's be aggressive. Get the shot in the move onto the 261. Get ourselves maneuvered into the corner so that he can't quite get us. We try and RBRT him, but it sadly doesn't go in. I think, okay, let's ram him. Get the kill. No, apparently not. Only 2 damage. But thankfully, because of our DPM being that little bit nicer than the IS-7, we get the 7th kill there to finish off the 261. With the Turan being the only one left, I know I can take a hit from the Turan, so screw it. Aggression. And we finish off the Turan there for our 8th kill of the game. A fantastic game yet again for the M5Y, which has been a tank I've thoroughly enjoyed playing. It really has. 8 kills, 8,000 damage, 3,700 assistance. That's 12k combined nearly. Ace tanker, the Bradley Walters, Devastator, Top Gun, Scooches, 2.1k base XP. Really great game yet again for the M5Y. We had 2 fantastic games on it in both guns, which is glorious. And yeah, so far I've really enjoyed playing this tank. The 12 degrees gun depression is nice. The flexibility of being able to pick either of the 2 guns is lovely as well. And both guns are solid choices. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!